Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today, at the request of a donor, I am playing Lumra-Living Wish. So this is a deck that Phil at ThrabenU's has been championing for a little while. They've been playing on their channel, having an absolute blast, and they recently gave a version of it to Bosch and Roll to play on their channel as well. And it's a whole lot of fun, and the donor said they wanted to see it, and I'm glad they did, because this deck is fun and it's sort of my jam. I do like lands adjacent strategies. So what is the aim of the game here? Well, we want to play some lands, play some more lands, play a few more lands, and then win the game. So we're trying to lock our opponent out with things like Wasteland, Ghost Quarter, and Field of Ruin. So our opponent doesn't necessarily get to play the game very much, and Tabernacle can strip away any of the creatures they do have in play. At some point we can win with Field of the Dead, which just can generate a whole bunch of zombies. Alternatively, we can Living Wish for something like a Lumra, which can be a massive creature to finish the game with, as well as getting us some nice cards out of our graveyard, and just doing a whole bunch of work that way. So that's pretty much what we're working with here. So we've got the explorations and Manabonds here, so we can do quite quick Field of the Dead if we have the Manabond, because this allows us to draw up to however many cards with things like Mulch or Life from the Loam, then dump them all into play at the same time. They all see each other and we get a load of Field of the Dead zombies. A bit like how Vale used to work for any people who used to play that once upon a time. We have crop rotation, just as a couple of little tutors if we need a specific land, you know, like a Tabernacle or a Maze or whatever. Or just know your Wastelands and your Bojuka Bogs are all fine too. There's a lot of lands that do stuff here. So we have Lair of the Hydra, the Maze of Ith, the Field of Ruin, Ghost Quarter I've already mentioned. We've got a one of Karakas, we've got a Bojuka Bog, Blast Zone, got a couple of Surveil lands in Hedge Maze and Underground Mortuary. We've split our basics so they have different names for the purpose of Field of the Dead. We've got a couple of Boseiju and we've got one Bayou. This is mainly just for having a different land name that can help us cast some sideboard cards. Speaking of the sideboard, we're a Living Wish deck, so the sideboard is going to be important. This is a land or a creature we can get. So we can go and get Tabernacle, Lumra, Field of the Dead, Karakas, Reclamation Sage, Ramunap Excavator, Collector Ouphe, Faerie Macabre. That's a lot of stuff built into our main deck via these Living Wishes. The things that we're actually be boarding in is the one-off Damping Sphere, the Leyline of the Void for graveyard decks, and a couple of Dismember to remove some stuff. I'm not really sure how useful I think a one-of Damping Sphere is. I think we should just say we're going to lose that matchup anyway, so maybe we don't even need the Damping Sphere. But, you know, we have it here. Maybe it will come up. It's only a one-of. It's not something we can necessarily mulligan to, but we will board it in sometimes. All right, that's the list. I'm excited to give it a whirl. I do like lands adjacent strategies. There is no Dark Depths combo in this particular list, though, but I'm sure I'll cope. Right, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's just get jamming. Our opener here is pretty much exactly what you want to see. We have the ability to go exploration into some other lands, and we've got Life from the Loam to keep it going. Our opponent has mulligan to 4. If they're doing some busted combo stuff, they will just go underneath us. That is the distinct weakness of a deck like this. We are a deck that wants to play a fair few turns of Magic the Gathering. And if our opponent is a deck that just wants to play 1 or 2 turns of Magic the Gathering, then we're going to have a bad time. Bog up Bog. So this is probably Ouphe or spells, and we're going to get absolutely bodied. That would be my guess here. All right. 3 mana. Undercity Informer. So they don't have the mana to crack this just yet. So what do we need? A Wasteland to take this out. Might buy us some time to figure something else out. Okay. This works. So we go Forest, Exploration, Ghost Quarter. Take this out. They won't have any basic lands because their whole deck has 0 lands in. So we need our opponent to not top deck a mana source in their deck that's like 50% mana. There it is. I'm just going to see what their particular build and see if there's anything unusual. See if they are on the green build with Disciple of Frail Eyes, or they're on the classic build with the Pact of Negation. All right, we're on the Pact of Negation build. Sure, we'll concede the game. And we'll go to the sideboard, pull in the things to hope that we can stave off what our opponent's doing. So, I would like some Leyline of the Void. Faerie Macabre is not great, but it's going to do here. The Damping Sphere is acceptable. Collector Ouphe. Do I want to Living Wish for Collector Ouphe? What are we going to Living Wish for in this current setup that we have? Maybe it is just a Collector Ouphe. I don't know. We'll see what we're taking out. Okay, we need to move some of these lands over so we can work out what we're removing. We'll take out some Maze of Ith. Now, some of these decks have been running a Duke where they go into a bunch of creatures, so we need to kind of respect that a little bit. But we can take out some Tabernacles here. I don't think we need this many Tabernacles. It's okay if our opponent does like a weird pass a turn line, but anything that removes their lands is an axis that we get to interact on, so I'm okay about that. Damping Sphere is not the most useful thing, but it can sometimes help us out. Bojuka Bog, we need this to go with our crop rotation. The Sages can take out their lands. We don't really need to win this game that quickly. So I guess we can take out one of our Field of the Dead, and then we're just looking to cut one more card. Just take out something as simple as a fetch land here. Although actually the fetch lands are probably better than the basics because we can reuse them with Life from Loam. So something along these lines. I could understand somebody wanting access to this Collector Ouphe. We've got cracks in the main that we don't need actually. So we can have back in a Field of the Dead. I think makes some sense. Or do we want... No, let's have another green source. Just so we can actually cast our crop rotations. Right, we'll try this. This matchup is abysmal. But we do have ley lines. We have a ley line. I will keep this. This is a classic situation of being a content creator and your opponent says they love the videos and immediately smash you down on turn 1. That's what we love to see. I wonder if our opponent is going to have boarded in stuff against us. I imagine they probably will have. Okay, so we can get this exploration. We can get this Ghost Quarter. And then we can just drop the Living Wish, getting a Collector Ouphe, and if we find another green source, then we can go and put the Collector Ouphe into play and shuts off a decent amount of our opponent's mana. Between that and our Ghost Quarters, we should hopefully be able to stop them from getting out of this. They don't have enough green cards to be running Force of Vigor, which is why it's important to see their deck in the first one. If they have the Disciples of Freyalize as part of their mana base, then the chances are they have some Force of Vigors. Right, they don't want to play any lands out because of our Ghost Quarters. A Wasteland. Not really what we're after here. The Ghost Quarters and Wastelands are basically the same here. So I think I'm going to cast a Living Wish. I think for this situation we probably just want to get hold of this Collector Ouphe. We can play these 2 lands out. And then I will Ghost Quarter my own Ghost Quarter. So yes, go and get ourselves a forest. And deploy this Collector Ouphe. So we have a win condition that's also slowing our opponent down. Whilst we're already slowing them down with the Leyline. We can Living Wish for the Ramunap Excavator if we so wish. We can't immediately deploy it though. It's just Living Wish. Let's go and get the Ramunap, I think is the correct one. I will drop this forest and attack for 2. So our opponent can't get the artifact mana, so they're going to have to do stuff with like rituals and things. They're playing this because they would have to discard otherwise. Okay, so we play out the Ramunap. And we can play out the Ghost Quarters from our graveyard. We can hit our own Boseiju if we find the Leyline and bring this back. We can also use these if we run out of lands to play. We can then take one of our lands out and then replay it. So we can increase the number of lands we have in total. But we're just going to play this one and this one. I'm going to keep this in hand so our opponent thinks about something else. So let's go and get our Surveil land first. This can go into the graveyard. I will play this Wooded Foothills from the graveyard. I will crack this now and get Hedge Maze. A crop rotation. I'll put that on top of my library, please. Our opponent might think we already have one because we're not playing this card, but we also don't need to because we showed them a fetch land, so we can just rip that out a few times. More Lotus Petals. Not the one our opponent wants there. So we'll play this one out. We'll crack for some damages. How many more fetchables do I think we have left? I don't know. Let's find out. Just the one fetchable. Okay, then I will go and put this forest in and we'll pass. Could go and get a Field of the Dead and try and make some zombies, but I don't think we need to do that. We have a 2-turn clock here and I'd rather just have an additional piece of hate for what our opponent's up to. As long as we don't have the Bojuka Bog in our hand or play, then we can rely on this crop rotation to be an additional piece. Now we know they run Pact of Negation, but they're not really great into the lands deck, generally speaking, so they might have boarded them out in favour of things that blow up, stuff like Leyline. They did have Force of Vigor. Pitching where down? Okay. Our opponent's got 5 cards. They still have to contend with this Collector Ouphe, so they're going to need a lot of ritual mana here. But they're doing that because this is the last time they get to attempt it before they're dead. Alright. Sideboard cards are good. That's nice to know. Don't want to do anything differently here. We didn't see a Duke plan, but we didn't really see very much of anything. So I think we're just going to probably go back in. Like, we could have just a Reclamation Sage in the main deck over a Maze of Ith. That's probably fine. It beats down. It maybe blows up a Chrome Mox if they've got them, or if they play out a Petal. We have 2 pieces of graveyard hate. We're going to need some green mana. What is our green mana count? 16. Okay. That's quite a lot. I think we keep this. Like, we just have tools that are very good. This is a pretty skewed matchup. We do still have a land drop. We have all the things we want. We just need some lands. And we might be able to find some. Alright, there is one of the lands. That is good news. Always had it. So we cast Exploration. Cast Field of Ruin. We have an extra piece of Graveyard Hate sandbagged that our opponent might not have an answer for. Now, if they have the Memory's Journey plan, they will just be able to funnel additional mana through a Jack-o'-lantern and then flip some stuff back into the deck to dodge the Faerie Macabre. But I think we're in an okay spot. If we can mulch, we should be able to find some additional lands. And then maybe we can start firing off some life from the Loams. A Boggart Bog. We're going to see a Dark Ritual into some guy. Is it Baragoyf? Unstoppable Slasher is one that you see quite often out of these. Alright, so we're going up to 4 mana. Elvish Spirit Guide. Is this hard cast wear down? So what do we get here? Tiger Artifact Enchantment. If a gift is promised, destroy 2 enchantments. So the gift is a card. So we get to draw a card here. Okay. Undercity Informer. Living Wish. Does that do anything here? Let's have a little peek at our sideboard. I don't believe it does. We don't have a Wasteland or something we can find. So I believe we are just going to cast a Mulch. I will take these lands into my hand, please. I'll play this Ghost Quarter. I will reduce the amount of mana they have because we need them to not be able to use extra mana to get through our Faerie Macabre. That is a key part of how we're trying to win this game. If they're just beaten down, I can probably live with that. A Wasteland, that's not the one we want right now. We don't have the mana to wish for what we want here. I don't think we care about this 2 damage. We can just ignore that for now. Let's just have another peek at our sideboard. I'm not going to go and get like a Maze of Ith here to fend this off. I don't think that's worth doing. We could just Life from the Loam, getting back 1 thing. That's reasonable. Albeit unexciting. And I will play this Ghost Court they know about. And we will continue on with this game. Feels like this is the first mana they've had. Because they would have just played this last if they did. So I'm going to crack this. So I don't believe they have the mana to do the... So they have 2 Narcomoebas. Let's pop their graveyard right out and have a proper intensive look at what our opponent has. 4 Pact of Negation in the deck. So we don't have to worry about Pact of Negation here. They do have the Jack-o'-lantern. They do have the Memory's Journey. So if they've got spare mana, they can fire that off. So if we nail both of these Narcomoebas, what does that do? They don't get anything back, so they don't get to cast anything from the graveyard. I think if we just nail both these Narcomoebas, we're in a solid position here. Go to this one and this one. So this also stops them just putting a bunch of power into play with Poxwalkers. And then these triggers don't do anything, and then we can waste our opponent away. Oh, they were hoping for Endurance. We don't need to hit this now, we can wait till our turn. Get rid of their graveyard for now, in their exile zone, just to make it a little bit cleaner. Right, I guess we dredge the Life from the Loam here. Okay, what would I like to do? I would like to cast this. I would also like to Ghost Quarter our opponent. So let's just Ghost Quarter this. So they don't have any mana, so they can't Memory's Journey, and that should be the end of the game. I've got the GGs in chat as well. Alright, so we managed to beat a bad matchup because sideboard cards are good. Alright. Even when you're up against the walls, as long as you know the levers upon which you have to interact and what your opponent can do to beat you, then you can sometimes get there. Let's go to round 2. This hand doesn't do an awful lot of anything, does it? Mulch can find us Life from the Loam. We have a lot of lands, and they all have different names, and we have another look at something else. So this is going to be an additional 4 looks at Life from the Loam, which can obviously shape everything for us. Ghost Quarter is not particularly strong. I think we should mulligan this and have something a bit more explosive, considering what our deck can do. This is terrible, so we have to mulligan this. And this is fine. We'll keep this. So we have a land. We don't need 2 explorations. I would like the things that give us card advantage, and we can worry about Living Wish later. Obviously, exploration doesn't look great right now, but our deck is full of land. We're odds on to draw a land by our second turn here. We have the crop rotation in case our opponent's doing something busted. Italio, okay. Crack this. We go and get a forest. I would like to deploy an exploration. And then this Bojuka Bog. We just want the mana in play right now for next turn. So we can cast this Life from the Loam, get back Misty Rainforest and go. Alternatively, we cast the Mulch, which is probably the better play. But we'll see what we have to do. A Brainstorm. So Tamiyo is going to flip around. How do we deal with a flip Tamiyo? How do we deal with a flip Tamiyo? That is a tricky one. We have to just make it so that the half of their deck that they draw doesn't matter, which is not an easy task. But if they don't have any lands, and they're just going to be able to play one spell a turn from the one land they have, which we then immediately remove. So that's how we win this game. Alternatively, if we can have a really good Mulch and work towards a big chunk of pressure via Field of the Dead, that can also work for us. But there's a clock on this game. Alright, it took a while to resolve that Brainstorm. So not the easiest choice, perhaps. So this is just going to keep popping off. We're going to have to work pretty hard to overcome this. But we have the ability to do so. We can play this Boseiju to play a round of days. I think that is correct here. We'll leave up the forest because this can't be wasted, so we can always have access to a crop rotation if we need it. At like a specific time. Can I Mulch, please? No. They said no to the Mulch. Understood. We could just go and get something like Lair of the Hydra, but we don't really have enough mana to pump into it yet. A little bit scary with this Tamiyo popping off. They're probably hiding a lot of their plans, but they might be keeping one around just in case we have a Dark Depths token. So just getting a Lair of the Hydra to chip this down a little bit is unlikely to actually work for us. Do I want to... I would like to crop rotate, I think. Okay, so that worked. What does that mean for us? Now, we could get this Lair of the Hydra. We at least have the option of doing some stuff with it. We're doing this now so we have access to 2 lands to get with our Life from the Loam in a second. I don't think Ghost Quarter is the way we're winning this one just yet. Blast Zone, is this each non-land permanent? I would like to Life from the Loam, please. Play a couple of lands. This goes up to 8 and then we bomb it. So, Bojuka Bog. Exile your graveyard, stops things like Murktide. And play this Misty Rainforest, which can go get us a Surveil land to try and put another land in the graveyard. And then next turn we can just pop the Blast Zone. It's going to cost us our expiration, but it stops them drawing half their deck. If they have a Wasteland, then we can obviously just go and bring this back with a Loam. And we have enough mana to do that. We do have a choice to make whether or not we dredge this Loam, because if we dredge the Loam and cast it and they counter it, we don't have the 3 mana to pop the Blast Zone, which could obviously be a disaster for us. Best case scenario though, I guess we're not, if we dredge the Loam, then we don't get to draw a land. So I guess we're supposed to draw a regular card this turn, which makes the Surveil land we have even better here. Okay, we're on Dreadnought, are we? They don't have the mana up to make this become a creature with a Stifle, so it's just going to be a Divination. Draw 2 cards, move on with life. There is a nice basic island there. So this means they have Stifle, which suggests to me they have a Stifle that can answer our Blast Zone here. That is less ideal for us. Let's get a Hedge Maze. So how do we beat our opponent if they have a Stifle? That is an interesting proposition. So there is the land if we want it. If we're not dredging Life from the Loam, what do we actually want to draw? We want to draw a way of blowing up this island. So I don't think we can afford to dredge Life from the Loam here. I think we have to use our 3 mana here. How are we going to beat this Stifle? Do we have anything on our sideboard that can help us out here? Not by the looks of it, no. Okay, that is certainly on the awkward front for us. I can play this. I can cast a Living Wish. I don't necessarily want them to see we have the Living Wish. We have to pop this. We should do it in our opponent's upkeep. So it at least takes mana away from them so they're less likely to play a bunch of scary things. I think we just lose this one though. We may as well cast this Living Wish, but I don't really know what we're finding. Karakas cannot bounce the Tamiyo because this is creature and it's no longer a creature. We could just find a land. Try this one at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We at least have a zombie. And our opponent's upkeep, we will Blast Zone here. We don't automatically lose. Like, Field of the Dead can go over the top of the Tamiyo. Oh wow, they didn't have the Stifle. Okay, I was preparing to slog my way through that. But we didn't have to. I'll take it. So we can dredge Life from the Loam and play a fetch land. That gives us 2 zombies. And now we're in a pretty good spot. Something like a Phyrexian Dreadnought coming into play and staying in play would be a bit of a problem, because that would be able to tussle with a lot of zombies in one go. And we're not going to be able to make them fast enough. We can, though, just get the Blast Zone back, which is pretty good against a Dreadnought. So I suppose we're covered on that front, because we do actually have enough mana to do that. Okay, nope. I'm not worried about the Dreadnought anymore. Artifact and creatures. Okay. Yes, we dredge this. We're going to pop our Graveyard out, because it's obviously quite a key zone now. I would like this Blast Zone, a Misty Rainforest, and a Wasteland. Counterspell here is obviously very good for our opponent. Alright, they didn't have it. So we can play this Blast Zone out. That gets us a zombie. And then we blow up the Dreadnought when they don't have access to a Stifle. And then we can crash for 2. Alright, I think we're in a stable position here. We don't have to worry about Dreadnought. We do have to worry about Null Drifter. But we have plenty of zombies that we can sack, but our life total is not an infinite resource here. We don't have some sort of Zuranor goodness. This could turn into a Kaito. No, it did not turn into a Kaito. They're playing black. They've got to be playing black for a reason. And Kaito is a pretty good reason. Do I want to draw a regular card here? We already have our land up for the turn. I don't think we need the... I'm going to draw a regular card. Because if this is... Oh my god, look at that. Absolutely rewarded. I would like to play a Manabond, please. We'll play this land out. Get our zombie. Go to attacks. We get another zombie from this Misty Rainforest. We get to discard our Wasteland. Make a zombie. Do I want to waste them off of black? It's not really going to work, is it, is the thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have plenty of lands. We don't need this Wasteland. Do I want to strip them out of some... here? Like, we may as well start it. Now we have the Manabond going. We should probably just get in at our opponent. I think I'll take out the black source and force this fetch to crack if they need a black source, rather than having a fetch land hanging around for a brainstorm or whatever. We're in a good spot. Land style decks have traditionally been very good into... Alright, let's scoop it up. They're very good into sort of mid-rangey, tempo-y sort of decks where we can just go over the top. So... A Dreadnought, you say? I guess I'd quite like to be able to get this Ramunap Excavator in. These things stay in the sideboard. At least not sideboarding. Dismember kills Tamiyo sometimes. Doesn't kill it if they have the mana open to brainstorm, so that sucks for us. So do you want to Dismember here? Let's move some lands over so we can have a better look at what's left in our deck. So we could take out this Bojuka Bog. The only thing this Bojuka Bog does is give Tamiyo less targets when it's minusing. We could have one Dismember in exchange for that. I don't think anything else looks bad enough that I want to take it out. I'd rather have a Bojuka Bog. I guess a Bojuka Bog in the sideboard is something, at least we have a Dismember to draw to. That's pretty whatever. I think that's pretty irrelevant sideboarding there for the most part. I guess I could have Oculus. So Dismember kills... Does Dismember kill Oculus? It's a 5/5, I think. Yeah, I think one Dismember is fine here. I like the Maze of Ith, obviously. I would like to keep ghost scoring our opponent into oblivion, because that is something that brings me a great amount of joy when I play Magic the Gathering. Tabernacles seem fine. Yeah, we'll just submit this with the one Dismember. If we feel like we need more, then we can add more in the game 3. Interesting. Sure, I'm going to keep this one. We've got some stuff that we get to use our Life from the Loam on. We've got 3 things that put themselves in the graveyard here. We've got a Tabernacle, so we can immediately start taxing any of their creatures. We have the one-off Dismember that we brought it in, so we can kill something. And we can just start off with fetch land. I don't think we're going to crop rotate into the blue deck that probably has days, but we can save that for later. Force of Negation is something I'm not looking forward to our opponent having, because that would just crumble our entire engine. Alright, at the end step we're going to get a Hedge Maze. No, we get the Underground Mortuary, because the black mana for the Dismember is relevant. I do not require another Tabernacle. We have a Wasteland. This is not going to do that much right now. I think we just get a... Do we get another basic here? Sorry, another fetch, Surveil land here, or we can get a basic. The thing I'm worried about right now is our opponent slamming down the Doorkeeper Thrall and then untapping and playing the 3 mana guy, the Null Drifter. A dress down. How do I feel about dress down here? It is what it is, I guess. Enjoy. Is it the Null Drifter or is it the Dreadnought? If it's multiple Dreadnoughts, then I think we're cooked. That is one Dreadnought. Okay, so I think we just want another Surveil land here. Hedge Maze, find us something good. We don't need that. I can go in the graveyard. So we have the Life from Loam, we have the Maze of Ith. So we kind of have some amount of stability here. But if our opponent has a Wasteland, that's obviously going to be a problem for us. So what we could do is have this Maze of Ith in play and have the crop rotation up to crop rotate away the maze for another maze if they have a Wasteland. I think that is the best way to not lose this game. And given the nature of our deck and the current hand we have to play towards not losing the game and then eventually we'll win it. Live that control life. They could stifle our Maze of Ith activation, which would be very rude. They're allowed to do that. They did not stifle it. Okay. We're getting somewhere. I really want something that lets us put additional lands in. We don't have any more Surveil lands to find. We could just cast this Mulch and see what shakes loose. There's a Manabond that we wanted. Okay, I'm just going to play another Maze of Ith and just turtle up a little bit. And then we can discard this Life from Loam and it goes in the zone that we want it to be in. We can start dredging our way towards the blast zone. A Doorkeeper Thrall. Sure. I'll get rid of this Life from Loam and Field of Ruin, I suppose. Here is a Null Drifter. So this attacks and has a detrimental impact on the things that we're doing. So this is a target for our Dismember, for sure. Okay, I'm in Meticulous Archive, not a Wasteland. So we're covered a little bit. They're going to make us go through the clicks. They are. Say no to this one. Say no to this one. And then we can try and Dismember them. Am I dredging this Life from Bellow? I don't think so. We don't have time for that right now. We drew another one, sure. Let's try and kill this Null Drifter. We need to find a way that allows us to put multiple lands into play. That's how we get through this. This cannot be Blast Zone by any stretch of the imagination. Force of Will, pitching Dress Down. Okay. What is our plan here? We can Tabernacle and Wasteland our opponent next turn. So we can tap them all out. Right, I think we just play the Tabernacle and we lock up their mana. We probably have to lose a Maze of Ith here. But the plan is to lock up their mana and then try and scrape away their lands. We just really need a thing that lets us put multiple lands in play. Because if that happens, then we're okay. So I suspect they pay for at least their two big ones. They might not pay for the Doorkeeper Thrall. So when this attacks, they put the trigger on, but then we can still Maze of Ith it. So we will prevent the damage this turn, but we're going to need to find another answer. Let's see if they got Stifle or not. They didn't have a Stifle. What about the Null Drifter? You got Stifle for this one. So we have to lose a permanent here. We're just losing one permanent a turn at this point. And one life. Are we able to do much about this? I guess if we lose this Hedge Maze instead, we can keep bouncing back their creatures. We can Wasteland them and then just continue to try and strip their lands out and hope that works. Another one. It's a little bit on the rude side, I won't lie. Okay, I don't think we can dredge this. We need to find an exploration. Another Life from Loam. Okay. Let's Wasteland this Meticulous Archive. Are we getting another Wasteland and stripping one of these things off the board? I think we have to. This is a pretty good target for any sort of counter magic. I'm not a big fan of the situation we're in right now. I think we saw 3 basic lands in the previous game. So our Ghost Quarter isn't going to do what we need it to. Okay. Not a big fan of this, but I think it's the way forward for us. We at least scrape 2 of their creatures off the board here. And then we have to make choices about what we're losing. It's probably the Tabernacle that has to go this time around. I suspect they keep the Null Drifter and 1 Dreadnought. That would make sense. If at any point we drew like an Exploration or a Manabond instead of these Life from Loams, then we just immediately win the game. Yep, so we're going to take out 2 of their creatures here. I think we can lose a Tabernacle. We'll see if they play a land drop, and then we can make some choices, I guess. Okay, they didn't play a land drop. I think we have to lose the Tabernacle this time around. So no to Dreadnought. So no to Null Drifter. If we lose the Tabernacle, what does that actually mean? Because this is just freezing all their mana, but this is going to change the amount of damage we take quite dramatically. I hate this. Alright, we'll lose our Tabernacle. We don't get to dredge here. A Ghost Quarter. It's not the one. Do we believe they have more? Probably not. No, sorry, we know they have one more basic, right? So I guess we just play this forest. We have to lose the Maze of Ith. And we're just trying to tread water until we can draw a Manabond or an Exploration. Brainstorm pretty good. We could have avoided this by locking their stuff down, but we would have taken 4. I think we have to lose... Do we have to lose the Maze of Ith this time around? Uncertain if we have to lose the maze. If we lose the forest, we only have one more forest left here. Okay, so now our Ghost Quarters might actually do something. So we're going to Maze of Ith both of their creatures, and then what? What are we sacrificing to this? It's a really tough call. I think it's the forest. Just buys us enough time. We still have another forest here. We've already played the Ghost Quarter, then we can sacrifice that. If we're treading water here, then we're not dead. One hit from this and we are dead, so keeping the mazes back is handy. Can't afford the Loam here. A Mulch. That doesn't do what we need it to do. I guess we play this Ghost Quarter. So we could Ghost Quarter one of their lands. Hope that they don't have any more lands. But then we're not going to be able to cast these other things. We have to eventually draw this life from... we have to eventually draw one of these Tabernacles. Let's just say no to these creatures. I think we're just getting rid of this Ghost Quarter. All we need to do is find Exploration or Manabond. Once that happens, we can actually add permanents to the board. And that would be lovely. Because at the moment we are just throwing stuff into the Null Drifter bin. But at this point they probably have counter magic, so we're unlikely to resolve it anyway. Right, we can't afford to dredge the life from the Loam. Okay, we finally found the Exploration. We've hung in there. We've got a snow covered in the bin and a regular one, so it doesn't matter what we get here. Just get snow is fine. This does need to resolve though. I believe our opponent will very much want to stop this. Yeah, they have stopped this. Okay, this is our last green source, which means we probably have to let a Maze of Ith go this turn. Let's ping back this Dreadnought, ping back this Null Drifter, sacrifice a Maze of Ith. So our opponent gets to start hitting us for damage now. We're not dredging yet. Another Exploration. Okay, this is good. This is progress of a sort. So play out our land as well so we can play around the days. We have an Exploration. Do you have another counterspell? Hard cast Force of Negation. Okay. We haven't got a lot of time left on our clock here. I think we're just gonna... feels like there are some worlds where we can not lose this game. Quite what those worlds look like, hard to say. I guess we lose this Maze of Ith this time around. Just give us the mana to Loam here. We can't Loam, we need to draw a Tabernacle. Does that do anything here? No. What can we mulch? I don't think we can mulch anything. Alright, let's just go to game 3. I think we need this other Dismember because that guy was not the guy we wanted to play against. So what comes out from our list here? Maybe the Field of Ruin. It's probably the weakest of our removal things. Where is it? It's Field of Ruin. Just get this extra Dismember in. In theory, we can just tax our opponent's lands with like Tabernacles and Wasteland effects that our opponent doesn't get to play a 3-drop. That would be ideal. Exploration and a Mulch. I'll take it. The Exploration effects are pivotal for us. And we're on the play, so this has to be a force. They can't just daze this one. They can Prismatic Ending it once it's in play. Alright. So we've got a regular forest. Would I like a snow-covered forest? And now we can start the jolly grind with this Mulch. There's a pending, sure. It's always going to happen at some point. So if I want to cast this Mulch into a daze, that's going to be bad news for us, right? So I think we have to play our Ghost Quarter and then Mulch this way. We need to get this going, really. Please find us a Loam. A Loam and 3 lands. I don't ask for much. We found a Loam and 1 land. That's something. We're going to pop our graveyard out because it's obviously a key zone here. But we can just start the Loam train rolling. Would like to find some Wastelands. Like, the Ghost Quarters are fine when we get to a certain point in the game when we can actually start stripping away their resources. But in the early stage of the game, all this does is takes away their land and just replaces it. We need to start working through their basics. Alright, we're going to see a Brainstorm on this and then just flip it straight away because this is obviously one of the better things they have against us because it's not the easiest thing to interact with. We have 1 of Blast Zone. Faerie Macabre. Goodbye, Life from the Loam. Sure. I took the Dismember. A Tabernacle. Is that useful here? Is that more or less useful than a Hedge Maze? Hedge Maze gets us a surveil towards something that matters. I think we have to play the Hedge Maze. Field of the Dead. Okay, we have a plan. It's a slow plan, but we'll get there. Let's just see how bad the damage is from over there. Underground Sea. We haven't really seen the black stuff yet. Here's this Field of the Dead. We'll only play this when it's the right time. We'll play this Tabernacle now, which is going to start stressing our opponent's mana base. They're going to have to start paying for their Tamiyo. They could just Brainstorm in response to the trigger, so they never have to pay. Because it becomes a different game object when it leaves and then comes back. Okay, they're not doing that much right now. I can live with what I'm dealing with right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we play out probably the Yavimaya next. And then we can play out the Field of the Dead. Manabond obviously would be a very good draw. Harbinger of the Seas. We have 1 Dismember left in our deck. How do I feel about this? Not special about it. Okay. I think we're just going to get beaten by this over the course of a couple of many turns where we just don't get to do anything. A Wasteland, a little bit later than would have been useful. We do have green mana, so we at least have that going for us. We can cast spells that let us put more lands into play, but those lands don't do anything. We could Living Wish into... We don't have a removal spell that we can find. That seems possibly like an oversight. Maybe there's some way that we can strip one of these out. Bone Shredder or something in the sideboard would be an interesting... But I guess we don't have the black mana, right? So that's not going to work either. Is there a colourless card that we could get that could kill this? Probably. Some kind of Master Core that we could go and shoot her up. That might be an option to help with the Harbingers. A Crop Rotation. That doesn't do anything for us here. A drawing from their clue. The Merfolk beats continue until morale improves, I guess. They're just going to keep going upstairs with their Tamiyo here, or they want to get like a Ponder back. They're just going to keep going upstairs. So we have 2 problems now. And all of our tools are completely shot because of this one problem. But if we can find the Wasteland, we can then make our opponent tap 5 mana and cast the Force of Will. Alright, there's an Exploration. Don't really want to play these out. We already have 7 lands. If we can get rid of this Harbinger, then I would like to be able to get some zombies. Okay. We've got a turn here to find... that's fine. We've got a turn to find Dismember, which then we turn this into a Blast Zone and it takes this out. But I don't think we win if they draw half their library because we'll never resolve the Dismember. So this is our one shot. They've got 5 cards in hand. They have Forcible Mana open. I think we can call it there and just go to round 3. Yeah, they were pretty good games. We just couldn't get the play additional land effect into play in game 2 until it was too late. Alright, let's go to round number 3. Okay, we have the things we want here. We can play additional lands. We can get more lands. That's very much what we're about. A snow-covered island. Does that tell us anything? Unsure. Okay, let's go and get a forest here. So the Boseiju might be useful. My brain is automatically thinking maybe our opponent's running Food Chain. I just don't think why you would want snow. And Ice Fang is one of the main reasons. And that is like a Food Chain or a Lurin style card, both of which get hit by Boseiju. So I'd quite like to have my Boseiju as a spell. Just going to play this Wasteland out. We could play the Boseiju and play another Exploration. But like I said, I think this is a matchup where the Boseiju might be useful. Okay, so we have an Ancient Tomb. It's just a stock up. So this snow-covered island might mean we're looking at blue-green Omnitel. I don't think the snow-covered island necessarily means anything. We'll see what we can draw here. A Hedge Maze. I really want to cast this Mulch, but we probably have to give up the Boseiju to do that. That is annoying, isn't it? Alright. Here goes. 1, 2... Okay, many, many lands here. All the lands. So we can play out this Bayou. We can play out an Exploration. We can Wasteland this Ancient Tomb. And we still get to play one more land here. Do I think they have multiple basics? Yes, I don't think it's worth starting this Ghost Quarter train. I'm just going to Hedge Maze, just get another land into the graveyard. So now we get to start loaming back the Wasteland. Show and Tell, obviously going to be a pain for us. But maybe we can try and get around it using Tabernacle. Force the creature to die. Alright, we've got Lotus Petal here. And a Seat of Traitors. So we could see something like the One Ring. It's just a Show and Tell. I'll play my Tabernacle. They have a sneak attack. Are we going to lose all of our permanents? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to lose all of our permanents bar 1. That doesn't seem ideal. Oh no, it's just an Atraxa. Atraxa found Lotus Petal, but did not find an Emrakul. Okay. So we just take 7. That's not an issue, really. And then we can Wasteland this City of Traitors. They probably have... So what do they have? Atraxa, Force of Will, Lotus Petal. Okay, so they're just going to Lotus Petal, Atraxa here. They might not put in another Atraxa. They might think they're in a good enough position they don't have to do that. So we have to Ghost Quarter our Boseiju. Okay, so just going in with a sneak attack here. Putting in another Atraxa. Lots of stuff. What did it take from the last one? Atraxa's already gone. Force of Will, sneak attack. Flooded Strand. What about this time around? Force of Will, Volcanic Island, Ponder. Quite the rip you have there, opponents. So they have red sources. If we Life from a Loam, it's just going to get counterspelled. Can we float mana off of the Boseiju, Ghost Quarter it? We can force them to use both of their forces. I imagine they're going to keep Ponder, Force of Will, red source. Let's see what they clean up with. We know they've got another sneak attack. So discarded a Flooded Strand. Okay. Field of the Dead. Does that beat Emrakul? Not when we're at 12, it doesn't. Okay. So we play this out. We float a mana. We Ghost Quarter our Boseiju. Go and get a Snow-Covered Forest. It's got a different name to the regular forest. Cast a Life from a Loam. We get back Wasteland. Ghost Quarter Boseiju. This is the Force of Will. Pitching the Ponder. Then we cast Life from the Loam, targeting Wasteland, Boseiju, Ghost Quarter. Do they have another Force of Will for this? We know they've got one in hand, but are they willing to fire it off here? They are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we play this one out. Play this one out, that gets us a zombie. We get another zombie. We've gotten rid of their things that let them dig into another monster. We got rid of a Ponder and a stock up. We're playing the Volcanic here. We're going to play out a second sneak attack. That is a bad idea, opponent. I would not do that. Okay, so we have a plan here. Do I want another zombie right now? I don't think we're going to pay for our zombies here, are we? We got 2 mana here. We can probably pay for our zombies. A Living Wish. Problem with Living Wish, what do we get out of it? We get a Reclamation Sage. That's okay. We get a Lumra, which gives us loads and loads and loads of lands. It mills 4. That's better than a Life from a Loam, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a really tough call. I think we don't want this because we want to be able to activate the Boseiju, but the Boseiju gives them a red source and we strip the red source, but then we Ghost Quarter the red source. Maybe that's okay. Sure, we'll put this into the graveyard. It's going in there anyway. I don't think we get to pay for these. So we have 2 mana for Life from a Loam, 2 mana for Boseiju. Actually, no, we can pay for these, right? Alright, zombies paid for, life from alone dredged. Let's get back. A wasteland, a ghost quarter, and a Boseiju, please. Okay, so we wasteland. I guess we attack first. That makes some sense. That's the thing we're definitely doing. So we want to wasteland their volcanic. So we also want to take out one of these. So they're going to get a red source here. A Thundering Falls. Put one card on top of their library. Alright, let's ghost quarter away their red source here. Do you want to keep that land that you've kept on top or not? They chose not to use ghost quarter's ability. Okay, so then we get the wasteland down. Then we shred their other red source. They've got a Flooded Strand in hand, I think, is the only issue we're facing here. Quite the issue, but we're hoping they can't string together an Emrakul here. So if they just have a Traxxas, they dig, or whatever. Okay, so Emrakul, this just kills us because it has flying. I guess we could have had a line where we draw the Living Wish, and then we go and get the Karakas. The problem is, our opponent then has like 3 red sources, so we bounce it, then they just put it back in again and attack us. So that doesn't actually work. I guess we lose all of our zombies, and then we bounce this. But then next turn, we have to deal with it again. Maybe that's a tighter line. So if we bounce this, we lose 4 zombies, a Tabernacle, and whatever. And then the following turn, then we attack all their mana and their sneak attacks. And then then we lose 6 more permanents. Yeah, it's going to be tough. So what helps us out here? Not really anything. Damping Sphere can sometimes do a little bit of something. I don't even know if it's that worth it. I guess it's probably better than a Bojuka Bog in this matchup. Karakas is good. Do I want to... I think I just want this in the main. I don't want to have to be tutoring for it with Living Wish. That might be too slow. Tabernacle, not so great. So we'll have a Karakas here. Sure, I think that's about all we're doing. Not the sort of fair matchup we're looking for, ideally. Okay, I'll keep this. Maybe we can see Lumra at some point. We got the Living Wishes. Alright, so our opponent's going to have Mages of the Moons, actually. Maybe we should have had the Dismembers in. Maybe that was a bit of a punt on our part there. Alright, let's get this Underground Mortuary in. A Ghost Quarter. Our opponent has a lot of basics, so these aren't very good. He's going to send it on turn 1. Magus of the Moon on turn 1. Okay. We have Living Wishes, though, so we do have a plan. Play these out. I'll cast a Living Wish. What do we find with this Living Wish? Are we just going for big Lumra mode? Probably. We got something we're working towards. If they cast Show and Tell, the reason we get this one first is because if they cast Show and Tell, we put this in. It's a big monster. Maybe it's big enough. I ponder. So yeah, I think we probably want the Dismembers for this. I think what this deck really wants is just like Walking Ballista or something you can get with a Living Wish that kills, makes the Moon Harbinger of the Tides. That seems like a bit of a miss that we don't have that in the sideboard. When that's one of the big problems that our deck faces, and we have a card that could just find an answer without polluting our main deck. I think that is a big way that we can improve the construction here. Okay, do I want to play into a Daze here? Do I want to play into a Daze here, or do I want something else? I can get a Collector Ouphe and shut off their mana. We can't do that right now, though. Lumra is kind of like the whole game for us. They didn't shuffle the Ponder either. Okay, I think we have to Living Wish. Would love to have a Walking Ballista, please. But we don't have a Walking Ballista. That used to be some tech that Eldrazi used to use once upon a time. So we could just get the land to guarantee that we have the Lumra around Daze next turn. But the way our opponent paws makes me think they're playing something else. So we could have the Ramunap Excavator, which is just bigger than their guy. That seems reasonable enough. So we just have the biggest guy. We stop taking damage. And then somehow we work through their Force of Will. But they can't cast... Well, they can cast a Show and Tell. Because what they're going to put in is probably better than Lumra. Alright, stock up. That's probably going to be a counter spell or a combo piece in their hand. Which is going to make our life a lot more difficult. But we can get our little Snake Cleric up and running. Okay, so we're going to take 2 here. Is it time to jam this Lumra? We need to find the other green source as well, I suppose. So we can't jam the Lumra just yet. Let's just get the Ramunap going. Let's have a Misty Rainforest. But this is our end game, is casting the big boy. Or stopping them being able to Show and Tell. Because this has reach. And it can end up big enough to gobble up an Eldrazi. I guess we're going to lose 6 permanents though, so maybe not. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We've got a Limra. It has Vigilance as well, so if we can get it into play, we can Sword and Shield with it. Opponent did not attack. That is a shame. Are we attacking? I don't think so. Do I want to play out this Field of the Dead? I don't know. I want to play out this Exploration. I think we do play out the Field of the Dead. We want as many permanents in play as possible. Although we have 15 life. But if they show and tell in, we can at least have a blocker. I don't know. Feels like we've lost this one. We could have had a couple of Dismembers in our deck, which would have helped. A sneak attack. You're just going to put in the big squiddly diddly. So our matchup against this is very poor. The regular lands matchup is a little bit better because they have access to Pity Needle and stuff out of Urza's Saga, so they can shut down the sneak attack. But yeah, and then like the sneak attack is a thing that gets round Karakas quite nicely. But they also have the Blood Moon here as well. There's just a lot going wrong for us. We also, not running the Dark Depths means we can't just have the Dark Depths and kill this. But once again, we're losing because our Living Wish package is not where it should be. We just need something colorless that we can find that answers these creatures. Alright, let's go to round 4. Okay, yeah, I like what we have here. We have Exploration, Manabond. These are the things we want. I will keep this. We can't get the Mulch until turn 2, but that's fine. So we start off with Lair of the Hydra, because this requires you to not have too many lands if you want it untapped. So you never know, maybe we leave it intact with it soon. Who knows? Right, we're getting a Force of Will on this, pitching a Ponder. Little do they know, we have a Manabond waiting in the wings. This is going to slow us by a turn though, but that's okay. A basic Plains. A Nomads and Courts. We're looking at Breakfast, so they could kill us next turn. Not a big lover of that one for us. Okay, I would like to cast this Manabond with the intention of playing this Tabernacle. They can't daze us, so there's no point playing out a land to play around daze. If the Manabond's in, we're just going to play the Tabernacle and pass. The Tabernacle means they can't kill us next turn unless they have like the one-of Lotus Petal that some builds have. Alright. We're getting our hooks in. I'm going to say no to this. I would like to get this Mulch going. And Urza's Saga, sure. That is going to eat a Wasteland. And we're going to keep our opponent's mana under wraps here. 1 damage. A Living Wish. Feels like a shame that we might not get to use that, but we'll see what happens here. Can I Mulch, please? There is a life from the Loam there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I think we are in Manabond town. We lose the Living Wish, but we get a bunch of triggers. Our opponent's deck can only fit one of each basic in as well, so we get to blow up their plains and island with Ghost Quarter for actual profit, unlike the previous blue-white deck we played in the Dreadnought. Right, so let's crack this before the Surveil goes off. We just get another Surveil land, I suppose. Just find some more lands. Nope, that can go in the bin. Get a guy. Let's have a look at this. A Ghost Quarter. I can go to the graveyard and get it back in a minute. Take out this as a Saga. Then we can F6 through his turn and our opponent's turn. I think we're officially in our opponent having a bad time mode. I made a mistake with the Wasteland. I was supposed to wait for the Field of the Dead triggers, otherwise you get more. But we'd have to pay for them. They're scooping it up anyway. But yeah, that was just a little thing where it didn't really matter what we were doing there, but we should have had a bunch of zombies. Then we can choose how many we keep. We probably get to keep, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 zombies? Yeah, that was just a mistake. Because Field of the Dead has an intervening if clause. So, the Leyline of the Void stops their turn 2 combo, which is something I am worried about. Dismember answers their creatures. This is fine. Faerie Macabre can also stop, but we can leave this in the sideboard for the Living Wish. Damping Sphere is not really where I need to be. Karakas doesn't have any targets in their deck, so we can take that out. Collector Ouphe does have merit. I think that's probably something that we can grab, though. Let's pull some of these out. Bojuka Bog is something I would like to be able to find as and when. I guess Field of Ruin is probably the weakest of these things. Boseiju has a decent amount of stuff attached to it. We don't need 4 Maze of Ith in this matchup. We can take out a couple of those. Tabernacle is nice enough. They are playing a bunch of guys out. That's how the whole Nadu strategy is going to pan out for them. Don't really want to take any green sources. Maybe we can trim a Ghost Quarter or 2. And we'll try that. So the Blast Zone can obviously take out Shuko and Nomads quite easily. Or get some counters on it and take out Nadu without ever having to target it, which is nice. I really want to cast this Big Bear. We're going to be relying on Living Wish to do a little bit of work here. But we have the first Urza Saga answered. Alright, we're not going to die to their immediate combo. We can keep them off Nadu with our Force of Will, our Wastelands and stuff. We don't have to worry about Force of Will on our Wasteland, because that's not how the game works. Force of Will on our Living Wish might stunt our little growth of action here, but this is an okay enough hand. Our deck has a desperate need to have certain stuff going on, but the Exploration, I think, is a really important tool. A Shuko. Okay, our opponent's threatening a turn 2 kill. We don't have... I guess they can't do the turn 2 kill because of our thing. They need to have a way to get rid of our Leyline, so we don't have to worry about that as much. Okay, so we can play this Yavimaya, which does help our opponent out, unfortunately, because they do have a green card in their deck. I would like to play an Exploration, please. We got to pause. Force of Will. Oh, pitching a Cephalid Illusionist. Sure. That is our turn. So we can use this to get Ramunap Excavator and just set up a Wasteland loop, which is also a Ghost Quarter loop. That's not too shabby. That's a nice plan that will eventually grind our opponent out of having any way of playing the game. But we probably have to Wasteland on our way up to this. They resolved a Brainstorm. They've got themselves a fetch land. A land that we can blow up. That's always nice. And Nomads. Sure. They got a 2-1 beta. Again, the bit's in soon. Alright, we just Wasteland our opponent, I think, here. Another Wasteland is nice as well. Our opponent plays the basic planes and we can Ghost Quarter them and be relatively sure they're not going to have any more basics. Really one of each, and that's it. An Urza Saga. Yep, that's going to get a Wasteland. At some point we can draw an Exploration. That'd be lovely. Not an Exploration. Right, let's take out this Urza Saga. Just going to get Nomads and Core Beatdown. If we draw another Ghost Quarter, we might be inclined to just Ghost Quarter now and then Ghost Quarter in the following turn. But I think I want to use this Ghost Quarter to play our Living Wish. Now that we have a second one, I'm certainly down for that. Where is my Ramunap Excavator? There it is. Get excavating. So next time we can just play the Bojuka Bog. We want to play out the Ramunap until we can get the value with it. And like immediately playing a spell. A land from our graveyard. A Living Wish. Plays Bojuka Bog. Target our opponent. Doesn't matter here. Cast his Living Wish. Get something else going. What do I like here? I don't hate the Ghost Quarter, weirdly. The Reclamation Sage is interesting. I don't think that's what we're doing though. Just another Ghost Quarter. Do we need another Ghost Quarter? Probably not. A Lumra, that's for later. Let's get Collector Ouphe. Just shut down the Shuko forever. Just using our life total as a resource here. Our opponent's got a lot of cards in hand, so we can't be sure that the things we're casting are going to resolve. Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. That's a nice one, isn't it? I don't think this Ramunap Excavator is going to resolve here. So maybe we just play out the Tabernacle here, and then am I playing out another Living Wish? And play another Living Wish. So I will go and get the Lumra. Or just want another Ghost Quarter. I'll take another Ghost Quarter actually. Because we currently have an uncountable way of removing our opponent's creature. Because we Ghost Quarter this, they go get their planes. We Ghost Quarter the planes, they have no lands. If they play a land this turn, then obviously that changes things a little. Alright, they found a green source. How lucky. Alright, we have this Ramunap Excavator that I'd like to put into play. We'll see if we can do that. They don't have any white mana for a plow, so it's going to have to be a counterspell. One as well. Alright, let's get this Ramunap in. This also stops our opponent from aggroing us. Force of Will pitching Narcomoeba. Sure. I believe that I know how many lands are in our opponent's deck here. I believe we take this out. They go and get a plains. So we take out the plains and then this has to be tapped. And then just Life from the Loam Wasteland should be the lock. I don't believe they have a forest. I was correct in my assessment. Excellent. So next turn we just Life from the Loam back the Wasteland, take this out, and then our opponent doesn't get to play Magic anymore. So when I used to play lands, when I first started playing lands, was before we had Thespian Stage and stuff. And this is how you would win. You would just grind people out with these Ghost Quarters. Just good, honest Magic the Gathering. Don't really want to see a Force of Negation here, but let's just get back some lands, shall we? Alright, we got the scoop, and that is the match there. Very nice. All right, that's 4 rounds down. We're 2 and 2. We basically just lost to Blood Moon effects because I don't think we have the right stuff in the sideboard for it. Okay, not bad. Let's go to the final game and see if we can put positive on the board. This opener doesn't have any of our engine cards. We can't play more lands a turn. We can't find more lands. This is a mulligan for me. We have an engine. We have a useful tool, but we're kind of at the mercy here of what our opponent does. I think I'm going to keep it. I'm just not ecstatic about it. We'll put back this forest. We can go and fetch that anyway. Jeweled Amulet. Okay, this is an oldie but a goodie. So this is a 0 mana artifact. You pay 1 to put a counter on it, and you choose a colour. And then you can tap it and remove a counter to get 1 mana of the type. It can only ever have 1 counter on it maximum. So it's kind of like a little mana storage thing. Pretty interesting. I guess we're just going to play this Underground Mortuary and then probably die next turn. Our opponent's clearly up to no good with whatever they're doing over there. Yep, Jewel Amulet. What colour did they choose? Blue. Seat of the Synod. Patchwork Automata. Sure. And there's this bauble. We've seen our Ghost Quarter. Field of Ruin. So I can take this land out, but that's not going to be the most useful thing. This has got Ward 2, so it's going to take a while for us to answer it. I think what we're supposed to do is cast the Mulch. And what land do we want? I think we want the Wasteland in play, so I'm going to play this to cast the Mulch. We're having a Force of Will over there. So this is a difficult creature to Maze of Ith. What the plan is, I guess, is going to involve... Alright, Singing the Stupor, pitch to Force of Will. So the plan, I think, has to be try and get a Tabernacle into play. A Collector Ouphe is not the worst against what our opponent's doing. I'm not 100% sure what's in their build. Alright, a Thought Monitor... Yeah. I just think we're not going to be able to do anything because we can't play multiple lands a turn. And unfortunately we've got a matchup where our opponent's just stomping around on us. Alright, so Patchwork is going to hit us for a bunch this turn. We don't have the mana to kill this yet. We will do in 2 turns, but we need to do something meaningful in the space of those 2 turns. They also have an Emery now. That is another problem. Oh, we finally found an Exploration though. That does change things somewhat. Let's get the Exploration in. Okay, it resolved. That's a positive. So we play out Ghost Quarter and Misty, I think, here. And then we Wasteland. What's in there? Bin. Just baubles. It's going to be a bit of a burden to get through those. I guess we Wasteland. Is it the Ancient Tomb? Just try and strip their overall mana. And then we crack this for Forest. So we can Boseiju something here, or we could just Loam and try and dredge into better stuff next turn. Here's what we have to do. We haven't got the most amount of time to put something together here. We do get to Boseiju our opponent next turn, which can kill the Patchwork. That could be our whole turn. We could Wasteland them, Boseiju this. Then they have to Emery it and start all over again. So we're kind of going to be in this continuing cycle whilst taking chip shots. So I don't think that's the way we need to go. We need to do something with Tabernacle, most likely. They've gone for a redraw rather than mana here. I suspect there is a distinct possibility that they have Force of Negation in their main deck. And there's a Saga. Well, that's not going to make it around the table. I'll tell you that for nothing. Alright. Loam, back to my hand, please. Forest, Maze of Ith. Okay. These are useful things. I'm going to play this Wasteland. I'm going to Wasteland there as a Saga. I'm going to Life from Alone back these 3 cards. Then we have to play the Maze of Ith here. That lets us stop 2 damage, so we only take 6 this turn. But if they find something else, then we are just cooked. Wait, no, so this deals 6, 7, 8. No, they just have it, right? Because they're just going to cast an artifact from their graveyard. We don't have the mana to pay for the ward here. Actually, no, we take 6 from this, we ping this back. We go to 2. And then we find Tabernacle and have a good time, maybe? Probably not, though. Another Patches. Okay. So I need to find 1 more artifact. And then the Emery can just come in as an attacker. I'm getting the Bauble in. So there's going to be 7 damage of facing down. Okay. And a Shadow Spear. Okay, that's lethal. Alright, that was horrible. What are we going to do about this? I would like to board in some Dismembers, I believe. Let's get those in. Do I need to shut the Emery down using a Leyline? Is that the level that we need to go to here? Not sure. I think I'd rather have this Karakas in the main just to keep bouncing the Emery. I think that's a better solution than boarding in 4 of this card, which is kind of bad. So I'd like a Karakas in. What does not look great here? I like Tabernacles. Our opponent's trying to put creatures on the board. I like Ghost Quarter because I'm happy to Ghost Quarter and Urza Saga. Right, Field of Ruin is probably the weakest thing. The Blast Zone is okay. We'll probably have to put counters on it to get much out of it, but that's fine. Boseiju actively excellent here. Like I said, Ghost Quarter's fine. Karakas is... We're boarding in another one, so it's clearly part of what we want to be doing. What is our Living Wish finding us in this package? It finds us Collector Ouphe, or it finds us, like, Reclamation Sage. So we could just take out the Living Wishes and put in the Reclamation Sage and the Collector Ouphe. And then we don't have to spend time fetching for these things. This is what we're almost always going to be fetching for in this matchup. I'll try that. Sure, we're a bit low on win conditions without the 4 wishes. Because if we're doing our land thing by making all the extra land drops and like loaming and mulching, whatever, we're not necessarily going to need to Living Wish or Collector Ouphe. However, if we're only playing 1 land a turn, we're not going to have the time to Living Wish and then play this without being a million miles behind. So I think this is hedging against our weaker scenarios by putting this together. Is that true? I think it's true. I wouldn't mind having access to like a Tabernacle that I could go and fetch, but I just don't think that's how this game is going to play out. We could cut the crop rots because we don't want to get our stuff countered, but I think we're going to just need the tools we have here and hope we can leverage them correctly. Life from Alone, Wasteland. I don't think this is fast enough to beat our opponent's deck. We need to mulligan. We need to be able to play additional land drops. Okay, this hand is good enough. I will keep this. I think we have to keep the lands that tap for mana here. I want to keep the Manabond in case our turn 1 expiration gets countered. So this will give us the ability to get a basic, play an expiration, play the Boseiju, and then we can hold up a Dismember. Or we can play the Manabond. We'll see if they counter this. They don't have many good options for a regular Force of Will. Force of Negation, obviously, high priority. Stick that on a Leyline, a Life from the Loam. Do I want to play this Manabond or do I want to hold up a Dismember? I think I'm just going to play the Manabond. Like, if they play something like a Patches, then we're not doing anything here, right? Like, we're not able to Dismember it and we just kind of lose. I think we're not going to pitch to this. We want to get our Mulch. And ideally, I'd like to get the Dismember going on something. Like an Emery would be nice. There is an Urza's Bauble. They get to look at 50% of our hand. They've seen a Mulch. They didn't counter an Expiration, so I don't think they have a counter spell for a Mulch. They could obviously draw one, but I think you want to hit the Expiration because this is the thing that allows us to keep up with what our opponent's doing. Soporific Springs and a Pithing Needle. This is probably going to name Wasteland, I would imagine. A Mox Opal. Not Metalcraft just yet. Okay, now they're Metalcraft. Is this going to be an Emery? No. Okay, they're going to have some redraws here. I would like to cast a Mulch, please. Find the Life from Loam is a nice pickup. Right, Ghost Quarter, Field of the Dead, Hedge Maze. We get to play a bunch of these lands. I want to keep this Dismember in hand, so I'm just going to play this Hedge Maze out. And then play out the Ghost Quarter, so we have Dismember mana that can also become whatever we need it to. The Wasteland isn't the best right now. I'll play out this Ghost Quarter, and I will say no to the Manabond trigger. I would like to kill something with this Dismember. And we already have an engine anyway, so we're accelerating our game plan every turn. Ancient Tomb. So they got some mana over there. A Patchwork Automata. That is not a thing we get to Dismember, unfortunately. We can just make some guys with this Field of the Dead and just stick a load of bodies in front of it and can never get through. And then eventually we can deal with it. Which I think is how we're going to approach this one. Haywire Might. That's pretty good. I can take out our Expiration or our Manabond. Taking out the Expiration, sure. We could just kill this with a Dismember though. I will dredge his Life from the Loam. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we dredge Loam, sorry, we cast Loam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's kind of awkward. I think we want to dismember this and then just discard our hand. So I think the play here is play out the Wasteland, dismember this, and then pay for the ward. Can I kill your Automata? If this goes through, then I think we're in a very, very good position. Right, we go to Manabond Town, dump our hand, make some zombies. And then we have access to more zombies because we can just go and get a Surveil land here, which might also put another spicy land in the graveyard. A Nile Spellbomb, sure. They're just immediately cracking it. We still have 8 power in play. Sucks to lose the Loam, but we've kind of got what we need to out of it now. Makes our Surveil land even better now because we don't already have an engine. We're actually looking for something instead of just having it all. Let's see what we find with our Underground Mortuary. A Wooded Foothills. This is 2 zombies. That is good enough. Our opponent is just a beatdown deck. We haven't seen anything that makes me think they're playing Painter. Let's play this one out. Let's go attacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we have ability to waste time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we can waste that. Oh, we can't waste that because of the Pith and Neon. Do I want to Ghost Quarter this Soporific Springs? We don't, do we? No. Okay. Just making sure I'm checking all the bits and pieces there. But we have lethal damage next turn, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. All right, we managed to win that one. Felt pretty good. Our opponent hand didn't really do anything. They just had a bunch of redraws that never went anywhere, which is my experience of playing traditional 8-cast decks, to be honest. Do I want to go back into doing Living Wish stuff? Do I like the idea of having Living Wish and going for these options? So I could turn these 4, let's say, into the Living Wishes. That gives us the ability to go and find an engine in Ramunap Excavator, a shutdown piece in Collector Ouphe, and whatever we need to blow up with Reclamation Sage. And we're not running crop rotation into a counterspell. The downside is Living Wish is very slow. I really want to cast Lumra. This is the final round, the final game of the final round. I'm going to put these in with the chance to cast this Lumra. Alright, that's what we're doing. You came here to watch the big elemental bear. I'm not sure if this is right. I think I do prefer this package of 4 cards in. Because when we get to a certain point in the game, we're not necessarily drawing that many cards. We are hoping to just be dredging every turn instead anyway. So it's more about what's in our opener and how we leverage it. But yeah, we're going to try this because I would like to Lumra someone. We don't have a way to play additional land drops here. We do have a Blast Stone, which is very useful. A Boseiju, which is very useful. Obviously, Life from the Loam is a key part. We don't have anything to recur with it just yet. We do have 2 Dismembers. I think we keep this and we just try and kill their first 2 things. Because if they don't have an engine like an Emery, then they're going to struggle a bit. They're going to have like one thing. What we don't want to see here is turn 1 patches. There is the turn 1 patches. And they're growing it on turn 1 because why not? If we just draw an expiration for our first turn, then we're going to be laughing. That's going to be exactly what we want. But the life loss on these is going to be very real. A Mulch. Okay, that's a fine card to have access to. I will deploy the Snow-Covered Forest. If they play an Emery, we have to kill it. Turn, we can Mulch if we wish, but then maybe discard the Loam. If we have lots of cards. A Lotus Petal. We need to get to the mana to kill this while there is still time. We can Boseiju it if we don't want to pay the life. A Shadow Spear. Alright, doesn't look like we're going to have a great time trying to deal with these things. Okay, so this is going to be 6 already. Jeez. That's so big. It's getting back for 6 on turn 2 with this ward creature that we just can't answer. Okay, we can't get a legendary creature in play to make this cost less. Because Lumra costs a lot more. It's not really a thing that enables our Boseiju there. A Misty Rainforest. We can go and surveil towards something we want, or we can Mulch. What are we looking for if we Mulch? Tabernacle is not the worst. Okay, I'll play out Blast Zone, I believe. And then I'll cast Mulch. Not a bad target for a counterspell. I don't think this is worth a Force of Negation. But it might be worth a Force of Will to our opponent. They could do Metallic Rebuke, I think it's the one. It's like Mana Leak, but you can pay. It's got Improvise, so you can just make it cheaper by tapping your guys, your artifacts. Metallic Rebuke, there it is. Okay, we do not get to do that. So we're going to take 7 damage, and then we're going to be dead on the following turn. So how are we going to... If we draw a Maze of Ith, we can Maze of Ith this back. Okay, so now they also have an Urza's Saga for us to lose to. That's fun. Yeah. So put the equipment on this. Oh, Lava Spur boots as well. So we're very dead next turn, aren't we? Yep, so this is 9 damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so the Urza's Saga token on its own is lethal. That's not great for us, is it? Living Wish. Now imagine if this was a Reclamation Sage. We could blow up the Urza's Saga, chump him, die because of the trample. I guess we have to blow this up and then chump. And then we take lethal off this guy. Yeah, that doesn't work. Boseiju isn't going to really do anything here. No, I think we're just stone cold dead. Alright, we didn't quite get that match. Let's go and talk about this deck. So we finished with a 2-3 record. 2 of the games we lost were like close 1-2 games. So a few things going the other way and then we win those games. But let's talk about the list. So the deck is fine. It has a significant problem when it doesn't have Expiration or Manabond. Or if your opponent is fast enough that you have to have these, then you are definitely in an awkward spot, right? Because if you need to have one of these in play, because let's say your opponent is just making a turn 1 guy that's going to hit you for 6 on turn 2, you're going to need to be deploying your resources quicker, and you need to have the right resources. That wasn't a thing we always got to do. So it is a little bit awkward. Like a single piece of interaction can just cut away an engine that you are reliant on. Now, Life from Loam is traditionally very difficult to interact with, so that's a fine thing to be leaning upon. But needing to get an Expiration or Manabond in play does hurt when you don't have them. I know a previous build that Phil played, I think, had Burgeoning in. I'm not saying that we should be running Burgeoning, but when this effect is so integral to what we're doing, I think I would rather these crop rotations be something that lets us play more lands. You could even turn them into like Summer Bloom or something, I don't know. But you need something to... You always need to be able to play additional land drops. And I think all the games we lost, we didn't get to play additional land drops. So there's something in that. What I will also say is, I think our sideboard is misbuilt. Living Wish is a tutor card, so you can have cards that aren't necessarily good, but solve specific niche problems that you have, and you can go find them. Our deck has a very, very specific problem of being stone cold to like Blood Moon. Like the way we beat Blood Moon here is going getting Lumra and hoping that does enough. Why not when there's Mages of the Moon and Harbinger of the Seas? Are we not playing something that kills them, right? Do we really need, like, if this Damping Sphere, this one-off Damping Sphere, if this was a Walking Ballista instead, maybe we 4-1 this league. That's a possibility, because we lost 2 clutch rounds to Blood Moon, right? I guess we're probably not beating that Sneak and Show deck very often anyway, but it's possible we could beat it. But I just think, what is the use of having, like, how much value is tied up in having one-of Damping Sphere in your sideboard? Yeah, there's going to be some matchups it's great for, but you bought it in, it's a one-of. You can't mulligan to it. You're not going to have it that often, right? The odds are against you. But if we had a one-of Walking Ballista, the amount of times that we would actually go, yes, I would like to grab that so I can kill this thing that has ruined my entire game plan, that works really well. There might be a different creature that you want for that instead of the Walking Ballista, but that's definitely an option. I remember back in the day when Eldrazi first was a thing in Legacy, you used to run like 2 Walking Ballista in the main deck just because it was a thing that could kill Mages of the Moon and give you play into a Blood Moon effect. You could just go, okay, I'm just going to keep dumping my mana into this. And if you've mulliganed really heavily to Blood Moon me, this is going to do the work and maybe win the game anyway. A bit like how some decks can just pivot into a creature plan if you really hose their main plan. So yeah, that's the main takeaway here. I think I would change these crop rotations for something that allows us to play additional land drops. There's many different things that do that. Take your pick, really. None of them are as good as the ones we're already playing, but our deck just doesn't function without the ability to play additional lands. Also, you know, we could have some more like draw effects like this, but I think the real downside is not having the ability to play more lands. And I would take this Damping Sphere, throw it in the bin, and go put a Walking Ballista in there, and I think the percentage edge you get from playing a Walking Ballista in this deck is significant, just as a colourless option to answer things. So yeah, that's probably my take on this one. I don't think this is like the best thing you could do with lands. I think the Malevolent Rumble lands decks look really good right now because Malevolent Rumble would solve this problem. I guess you could replace these with Malevolent Rumbles because we're so desperate to find an Exploration or Manabond. Having something that can find it is really good. So yeah, I've changed my mind. These cards should be Malevolent Rumble, I think. And I would be inclined to try and find space for 2 more Malevolent Rumble in here. Quite what you're cutting, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we can afford to trim 1 Tabernacle and that gets us 3. But this deck just doesn't feel like it functions without these cards. So having more ways of putting that into play is definitely where I'd like to be. You don't have a lot of use for the 1 mana you get off the Malevolent Rumble, but putting cards in your bin, digging deep to find one of these things, that does seem like a place I'd like to be. Alright, I think we've gone over this one enough. Oh, Field of Ruin, there you go. There's your other Malevolent Rumble one. Boom. 4 Malevolent Rumbles, done. And put the Walking Blister in. Alright, I think I've gone over this one. It's a pretty interesting, fun one. I do really enjoy watching Phil play it on his channel. And if you would like to see that and you haven't seen it yet, by all means check out the links I'm going to post in the description because it's a good time. And it's important to support other Legacy people. Obviously, Phil doesn't exactly need help supporting. His channel is doing great because he makes some wonderful content and has been for a while. But if you haven't checked out his content and you haven't checked out his Lumra Wish videos, by all means go and check them out. I enjoy them a great deal. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you anything and it really does help me out. I am hoping to hit 5k subscribers for my birthday. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. Maybe later on in the month it will get there. But that's what I'm hoping to do. So why not help me out do that? Alright, thanks again and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.